Hey everybody, welcome back to the Quantum Show. Thanks for filling in the chat room, y'all. That is awesome. Okay. Uh Tonight we're continuing with R. Keith Andrews. In just a minute, I wanted to update on the little videos that I put out during the week and a little realization that I had about the dryer, not a ghost, right? I've never owned a current gen dryer, and it is a feature, an anti-wrinkle feature. I just happen to be there at the moment, not a spirit. It would have been cool if it was, but debunked. Debunked. So there's that. And also, something about y'all realize these car repairs came upon me all at once, right? And one set of repairs I'm doing over again, plus some, because I have a feeling, right? I had the plan to buy some items. Okay. I had the idea to buy some firearms, and I think either me subconsciously or some force acting on me says, "Oh no, you won't. You have other things to spend your money on. Break, 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 break." And here you go. Spend your money on that. Stay out of trouble. Either my subconscious did it or some outside force, but I'm pretty sure this was meant to be. So, here we are. Yeah, and that's just the way it happens all the time with me. And I am, you know what? I have to maintain I am grateful for that way of being. It's it seems inconvenient. It seems inconvenient on the surface of it, like cars broken down, but I have a car, right? And I have a running car other than that. So I'm not inconvenienced to where I'm hobbled. I'm just inconvenienced to where I don't have the money for it. So I don't have the money to buy something that would probably get me in trouble. And though cars are just as dangerous, they're more constructive, right? Okay. Anyway, I wanted to get that out of the way. And I did put the trail cam up. I put it up in front of the cemetery. On the top of the reasons is because I saw somebody had left the gate open. And well, that's my official reason. Y'all know why I want a trail cam on the cemetery entrance. I want to catch any activity. Most likely, I will catch animal activity, squirrels, deer, maybe some possums. So that's that. So there is my update for my personal goings on, and a lot of it's quantum, some of it's mechanical, and some of it's mechanical because of the quantum. So anyway, that's my update. Thanks for being patient with me, Arkeith. Welcome
Not a
back to the
problem at all.
Quantum Show.
See, neat part there is it's your show. You get to call it.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I just wanted to get that out of the way because I hadn't made any small other videos updating those situations, and well, I think that the firearm money is now the car money, and I don't think I'm going to go back to that plan. I keep thinking I'm like, yeah, that wasn't such a good idea, and either subconscious, higher self, or outside force is saying, you won't need this, but you will need your car. Break your car. And my those that's my priorities is have my infrastructure in place before any extra stuff happens. So
Yeah, which
car
makes total
first.
sense.
Yeah, car first.
Preemptive strike.
Yeah. So that's my little update, and I do not have a haunted home appliance. It is a function.
Would you like one?
No, thank you. I'm good.
Just thought we'd
I'm
offer.
okay. I'm okay. So welcome back to the Quantum Show, R. Keith Andrews. We are talking Antarctica, and today now we went over last week. This is a part, I don't know, part 2, part 3? This is the
Well,
second
this
time
is
you've
the
been.
second time, so we can call it point in part 16 and just say the number system's different.
We're going over it. We went over I was calling it the two eye stone. You corrected me, called it the twee stone. Went over that
Yes.
as a component, and we went over kind of the legal, not the legal system, but ideals of the legal system there.
The
And we went
ideals in the work frame. Now,
right. We
correct me if I'm wrong, because I lost something here. When you said the two I, you spelled it TUOUI.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's the way I spelled it.
doesn't
But
change
you
the pronunciation of it, by the way.
right, you corrected me. You called it the twi. Right, you told me it was a twi stone, and as a component to a bigger machine, not the end all be all of it.
That is correct.
Okay,
It's a smaller local version.
all right, and also behind the scenes update between Keith and I. Stop me. We've talked about this on your show that you wanted to get with me for the crystal computer. I
This is
do have.
correct.
Okay, we have talked about it on the show. It's really expensive, so I haven't made very much progress with that because I don't know how to acoustically shape stone yet. But
That's the neat part. You don't have to.
right, I could shape it, but I am not a stone worker. So I'm going
Shame.
to. I have an idea in place. I'm going to. It's being thought out, right? But it's really expensive to do. The main components are just really expensive. You know, the particular crystals, the particular shape of the, I don't know, console. It's just really expensive to get all that done. So,
The console is the neat part. Okay,
mhm.
I'm presuming you're thinking that the console itself that contains the crystals has to be crystal.
No, no. I was
Oh,
going with
good.
no, I was gonna go with, it's still expensive, with blue sandstone because it just felt right, and I have to get someone to shape and cut that for me.
Have you by any chance talked to Robert White over in Australia?
I have not. Shipping from Australia, a chunk of stone will be very expensive. I was thinking more
Oh, I
locally.
didn't say it was going to be cheap. I said he might be able to do the carving.
Okay. Well, he probably could, but I specialize in getting things done sometimes on the cheap, finding someone to do things, not necessarily poor quality, but just not usually what they do. So they like, I'm thinking people who make headstones for graves.
That'd
They
work.
they can do this. It's not their normal job, but they can get it done as a one off or maybe 10 something. And it's cheaper than, well, shipping from Australia for sure.
Yeah, it would have to be.
Mm. And
And besides
blue
that, doing it local is definitively cheaper.
right, and plus
More to the
look,
point.
yeah, local economy. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Uh,
More importantly, I was just thinking, yeah,
mm,
local economy you definitely stick with if you can.
right. And so that is an update there. The plan has formed in my head, but all of it's really expensive. And I've had all this stuff come up in my face in the past just a couple months, right? So just a little update there. Behind the scenes update. Keith and I are working on these things. It just takes time. It takes
Yeah, it's
time
not like
and
we
it's
don't have enough on the go. So
yeah, right, and this stuff is expensive. Stoneworking is expensive, particularly crystals and a particular blue sandstone that I'm wanting to use. So there's that update. And that was something I wanted to cover with you today. And well, check. We got it. So, all right, you have said on now. We introduced you last week So links are in the description. If you want to buy his books, contact him down below. Okay. We left off with you were living in Atlantis, working in Antarctica, and it was non-humans that would typically be working in Antarctica. Let's pick up from
The
there. How
majority
about
of them, yeah. I mean, obviously, the people in Antarctica, there was now we'll just lump them together and call them Atlanteans because they were part of the same fleet. But
okay?
the locals were ancients. There
Okay.
weren't that many locals that were above ground.
All right. And when you say ancients, do you mean humans?
No, I split different races into two categories.
Mhm.
Off-worlders, meaning they originated off planet, and the
Right.
ancient races, meaning they evolved on Earth and are still here.
Okay. All right. They're still here, you said. Where are they?
In what you would call Hollow Earth or Inner Earth for the most part.
Okay. That jives with the research that has been done and the witness reports from Antarctica. So,
Well, this is always a bonus
mhm,
because Lord knows I haven't researched anything.
right. Well,
Yeah.
you're not here for the research. We're here for the stories, the personal experience, your personal experience. I'm not going to run you off with research topics again. Not going to do that. So, you said ancients, and what was the other group?
You've got off-worlders and ancient races.
Okay. Well, I mean, in Antarctica,
Yes.
who was working in Antarctica? Which off-worlders?
Well, what you call the Atlanteans, okay, are obviously off-worlders.
Lanteans, right?
Okay. Yeah. Now understand the Atlanteans on the whole. Now, in Atlantis, they were called Atlanteans. Okay. Um, the people in Antarctica are literally known as Piranhas.
Okay,
Okay.
I need to spell that out.
Correction there. I got that a little backwards, but they were actually called they are called Pyrrhonians. They are still what you would call Atlanteans, but there's a reason that they took on a different name. But the spelling is Pyronian.
Pyronian, right?
Yes.
Okay. I will put that as in the chat room right now. So we all know what we're looking for or what we're talking about.
Now, just to be
Are
clear,
they in
I
your
don't
book of races?
necessarily.
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
Keith, go ahead.
I say just to be
I
clear
asked,
to
are
the
they
to the
in your book?
listeners, I don't necessarily know them by the name other people know them by.
Understood. Okay. And these guys, the Peronians, they are from Offworld, right?
Yes.
These are the Offworlders. All right.
Yes.
And are they in your book of races?
Yes. Well, they will be in the newest edition. They are actually the Atlanteans are in. I think they're in book 2, but in book 1. I hope they're in book 1. I'm just going to double check. I'm working on a second book at the same
Okay.
time.
Right. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that second version of the book of races.
Okay. Bad news. I will have to do a little addendum for you because the Atlanteans are actually being covered and the Peronians will be caught in it with it. Are actually covered in book 2,
Okay.
not in the second printing.
Okay. Well, looking forward to it as well. All right. Now, I have a question in the chat. By the way, welcome everyone. everyone in the chat, welcome. I'm not going to go through any kind of roll call right now because, well, we have a guest, and I just want to get on with it because we all know why we're here, and you know why you're here because you're quantum. Now we do have a whoops a question in the chat from Dorothy Hawkins. Would Atlanteans be the original cultural settlement sky people who helped us survive after the giant flood?
I know what she's referring to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just trying to piece together. I'm just trying to remember the order. But they are certainly one of the crew. They came down, well, in all fairness, they came down as the flood was happening. Brought about by the same problem.
All right.
But yes, the timing is absolutely right for them.
So are these the sky people that the ancient texts that we do have, are they referring to Peronians or Atlanteans? The
Well,
survivors
from
of
my
Atlantis again?
understanding, well, you got to remember the Empire was the Atlantean Empire, or more to the point, the flagship was called the Atlantia, which is why when
Right.
it set down where it did, and I'll use the term set down a little loosely, it would have been what the locals called the Atlanteans that stepped up to help. The Peronians were from another ship, same fleet, same incoming. It was a fleet of 13 to start from, to start with.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the ship was called Atlantia. Atlantia. It looks like
Yes.
Atlantia, but Atlantia.
Yeah.
All right.
Which
So
means when
let
they first arrived, the locals asked where they were from. Well, the Atlanteans turned around and said, "We're from the Atlantia." The locals
meaning the ship.
took that as meaning they were Atlantean.
Gotcha. Okay, so they are the sky people that are referred to, right?
When you look at the ancient texts, everybody says the sky people helped with the flood. I mean, they were dealing with it themselves, but yes.
Okay. All right, and good question. Very good question, Dorothy. Thank you. Now, let's see. We have another question. Yeah, and I am taking questions in the chat. Joseph asked, did the Atlanteans cause the Lemurians to lose most of their lands, or was it a mutually suffered catastrophe?
No, that was a whole different ball game altogether.
Okay.
They were two separate problems. The Lemurians lost most of their lands because they lost most of their people. See, the Lemurians, now, what I don't recall, and maybe you've got the information from the records, is when Atlantis, like the year that Atlantis was running around here. You can probably pull that one. I do not remember the year itself. I remember the event. Okay. The reason I'm bringing it up, though, is because the Lemurians, about 40,000 years ago, they pulled it, and this is a whole different ballgame, but they made a mistake and literally, with an act of curiosity, wiped out the massive majority of their people.
Right.
And
I
when
know
they
this story, but go ahead.
in a nutshell, the Lemurians had full physical manifestation and complete global communication without technology. Somebody, and we never
Okay.
did figure out if it was a child, an adult, a male, a female, just somebody came up with the idea. We were bored, and somebody came up with the idea of, well, why don't we all stop our hearts at the same time? Our physical hearts. Now, understand, everything in the Lemurian Empire, the massive majority was held together by mental cohesion, by physical manifestation. So
Okay.
everybody goes, well, we haven't tried that before. Let's do that. everybody around the world, a population in excess of 10 billion, shut their physical heart off at the same time. Unfortunately, half of us couldn't get our heart started again. And when all of those people died, all the physical constructs collapsed. I mean, picture what happens if you take a 200-story building, okay, that is completely made up of mental energy, and you take out the middle 50 stories. Right.
Understood. Okay,
Net result,
we need to
everything
clarify that
got
for
wiped
the
out.
audience. Okay, we should clarify that for the audience. Now, physical manifestation, what you're referring to is I have a blank book and it forms in my hands, right? According to my mental command, my mental
Correct.
manifestation of it, visualization.
Correct.
Okay. And when they say when you're saying physical control of their bodies shut down their heart. Now, I practiced Buddhism for 2 years. I am a little bit familiar with physical control. There are modern, well, ancient, modern, current Buddhist meditations that you can put yourself into a state where you're almost in a coma, and you can put
Absolutely.
yourself unconscious, and this is not what Keith is referring to. Keith is referring to stopping the heart, not slowing it down so far, but stopping it. And okay, they were bored, you said. Well, they sound like they were all very psychic and
They
very
were.
psychically powerful. And was this it sounds like a theory that scientists have, the kind of theory scientists have over and over again. If we do this, all of this is going to change, and it usually doesn't, right? But
Usually this
in their
is
case,
good.
it did.
Well, that's
Right.
because
In their case,
that's because modern scientists still have a lot of mechanical and physical stuff physically built in place. These guys didn't.
right,
50,000 years ago, they
right.
didn't have anything physical built in place.
Okay, well, what I'm getting at here was why would they come up with that idea? Did they think that they were going to have some kind of exodus? Or were they attempting to ascend? Or what were they, or were they just simply bored and didn't know any better?
It was
Was
literally
there
a
a
case of
logic
we've
behind
never
it?
done it before. The logic was we'd never done it before. It was that simple.
Okay. Now we
You've
have
heard
to
the
take
term
in
"what
your
does Button
perspective
do?"
too. Yeah, yeah, I have. But we have to consider your perspective. Is this what you learned by living on the outside of it? Or you weren't, no, that was not your time, was it? You
Lemuria.
weren't
I
there
was
at
in
that moment.
Lemuria.
You were there later.
Oh no, I was here both.
Oh, okay. Alrighty
Just
then.
as a
I
thing.
didn't even occur to me that could be. Okay, my bad. Okay, so Joe, I hope that answers your question. And let me go ahead and take that banner down. I hope that answers your question. All right, LA Moon has a question. Oh, that's the wrong button. Did the Lemurians start out with this mental ability, or did they develop it?
Lemurians developed it,
So
as in they
Lemurians
started.
were human.
Yes,
Okay. Straight up humans, as in they started. Go ahead.
as in they started off as simian amplified. As simian amplified.
Right.
In a
And they
nutshell,
developed their mental abilities. Good.
They developed their mental ability because nobody told them they couldn't.
That's a very good way of being right there. All right. So they developed. So LA, they developed their abilities through trial and error, practice. Same thing we do
A
now, right?
lot of
Just
dedication.
a lot of dedication. Okay. All righty then. Now, from Dorothy Hawkins, how did you come to know your past lives, Keith? Please take this one.
Oddly enough, the best I can tell you is I wake up with it. Like I'll go to bed and wake up and go, okay, well, that was trippy. Now, when it started, I would question everything. And I would go and talk to people and go, look, this is what I'm remembering. Like, why have I got this memory? I remember one lifetime in particular I asked the guy about, and bear in mind, my past life memories have not come up in sequence. So I was talking to one guy and I laid out a whole scenario, gave him a very specific location for it. And he looks at me, he was a trained historian. And he looks at me and he goes, you know, I hate you. I said, why? What did I do? He said, I've studied history my entire life. He says, you go to bed, you wake up with entire chunks of it that we can verify. He said, it's not fair.
Well, fair. What's fair, right? So you just remember that it's just there, right? You didn't do anything to get these memories to come to you, right?
And no, I know in fairness, I didn't even know about them to start with. The thing you got to remember that people have to remember is every single individual that is listing in has past life memories. All of you do. Not all of them are human. Yeah, that was a
I'm
neat little
interested
trip.
in
I went
those.
down memory lane.
Yeah. Oh man. We need to keep doing that. We need to keep doing that. And everyone is saying hi. Everybody's coming in. Hello, everyone coming into the chat. So we have a lot of people. But okay, so let's talk more. I want to. Well, here we go. Okay, I will show this question because, well, I think you've already answered it. So why did they not just do a few test cases, or were they just that stupid?
Oh no, they had done the few
Talking about
test
Lemurian.
cases without any problem. Problem was, we had done a few test cases, but here's the kicker. When you've got the entire community built on on a mental cohesion pattern on the neural net, when one person stopped their heart, everybody else that had seen that building still held it in place. Okay. Even though the person's heart had stopped, the whole thing, the whole civilization was still there. Picture, if you will, and this will make sense for the mechanics out there. You're working on a car. What's the first thing you do to figure out how to solve an engine problem? You want to be able to restart it if the engine floods. How do you go about learning how to do that?
Well, you look in a book.
Okay, take the
Is that
book out
what
of the
you're
equation.
asking?
If you
Okay.
if you don't have a book and you want to be able to make sure you're able to restart a car if it floods, how do you go about testing
If
it
it
and finding
floods,
out how that works? Yeah, if the engine on the car floods, and you want to figure out how to cope with it.
well, first I'd smell the gas, right? Am I
Right.
what did you just tell me, Keith? Go ahead.
Ultimately, it boils down to this: in order to figure out what could be done with the physical body, some of the more adventurous people went, hey, I'm not just going to drop into a coma. I'm going to actually stop the heart cold. And because of the fact I know that my soul is what operates the car, I'm going to step out of the car. I'm going to let the car physically die. Then I'm going to get back into it and restart it to see if there's any problem. Much like modern scientists, a lot of people tried that on their own. The flaw was that they didn't think about the ramifications of shutting down the entire support system.
Oh,
So,
I see. There. Go ahead.
well, if you've got one body and that person, let's say, for instance, they've manifested an apple and the apple is sitting in the palm of their hand, and you've got 6 people around you that see that apple, okay, they are now supporting the image of the apple. Now you die, the one holding the apple. Their memory of the apple still holds it together. There is no problem. There's no drop. There's no degradation of image.
Right,
They
because there's still
didn't
plenty
take
of.
into consideration. You know, it was sort of a case of, well, because you got to remember, for those of you that are going to ask, well, wait a minute, why not do it locally? Because locally for them was global. Okay.
Right, because you're talking neural net. Everyone has it like a psychic link to other people.
Yes. Not a hive mind, but
Okay.
absolute solid connection. Which
Like
means whether you
networking.
were awake, asleep, or dead didn't matter. Like networking. You know,
Okay. Right. A computer that is in a certain state is still networked to the other computers when it's in safe mode with networking.
yeah.
Right. Regardless of the state that that computer's in, if the network is on and its network adapter is on, it's connected. And so it sounds like if we're going to talk about computers as a comparator, then it sounds like a glitch or an error got passed around to all the computers and they followed the instruction and the network and the manifestation went down. Does that sound
No, picture this.
close?
Take a network. Okay. One computer goes down, the rest of the network holds it together. But what happens if you cut
Right.
power to the building?
Right. They go down, the network goes down, and
You cut
everything has to
power to the
be
building,
reestablished and
you'll lose the
reset.
whole 9 yards.
Right. You'll lose everything. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Ultimately, that's what happened.
Okay. Okay. Well, hopefully everyone understood that because I don't think I was there because when we talk, Keith, I get a feel about, oh, I do know this when it's something that I think I've gone through, but I don't think I've gone through this. So I'm doing my best to understand it too in the
Yeah,
terms that
and
I can
unfortunately,
understand.
I don't have the terminology for it. Like, not in today's world.
Right. Right. I'm sure people were not speaking English in those days.
That's a good bet. You know?
Yeah, and Lynn L.A. Moon is saying apparently this experiment was not thought out, not well thought out.
Well, it wasn't thought out well enough, is more to the point. See, the one problem the Lemurians had was literally curiosity killed the empire.
Hmm. And yeah, I would have thought that making your heart stop would just be a very bad idea in general. Just in general
Well, let me ask you
for
this.
a whole book of reasons. Yes.
Let me ask you this. Is holding your breath a bad idea?
Yes.
Holding your breath is a bad idea.
Short term, it's not that bad of an idea. Long term, it can be a very bad idea.
I didn't say suffocate yourself. I
'Cause
said
you
hold your breath. Meaning you've got conscious control over it.
Okay, then no, it's not a bad idea. Just to
It was
function.
the same issue with stopping the heart. These guys, if they cut themselves, would look at their hand and go, I don't need to bleed anymore. And that solved that problem.
Right. Um, okay, and
It
so they
wasn't as
decided.
big a deal as it is with humans.
Say that part again?
I said, for them to stop a heart temporarily was not as big a deal as it is for humans.
Okay, okay. So, wait a minute, we're talking about Lemurians, right?
Yes.
Alright.
See, you went
Now,
off track there when you asked me
earlier
how
I went off track when I asked you what?
about how the Lemurians ended up coming into this equation.
Okay. Right,
Lemurians
well,
and the
thanks,
Atlanteans
Lynn.
are two separate issues.
Right, well, we will get back to Lemuria again later. We should go back to Antarctica. Thanks,
Might be
Lynn.
an idea.
She's over there laughing. Okay, so the people you were working with, and we named them the Peronians, right?
Well, technically, we didn't
I
name
know.
them, but yes. That's right, the
Well,
Peronians.
we okay. Where are they from? They're off-worlders. Where did they come from?
Okay. In a nutshell, let's go back just a fraction. An Atlantean
Okay.
fleet was heading out this direction, a fleet of 13 ships. An unprecedented solar flare kicked in as they were going through. The mothership took damage and collapsed. It lost thrust and ended up crashing, a control crash on Earth. Okay. When they landed, they touched down, but that was their flagship. That held their commander, if you will. Okay.
Okay.
If you will, the king and queen of Atlantis. They were the commanding officers of the Atlantia, of the entire Atlantean fleet that was out here.
Hmm.
Okay, so when they took damage, they had to set down.
Yes.
And then the other 12 ships landed in a very specific pattern. Okay, in order to set up the Lincolns and support them. Now,
Okay, so
again,
they basically go ahead, Keith.
the flagship had to set down. The others would not move on without it. So they sat down in
Right.
a very definitive pattern to set up the relay, to set up the power relays to keep the Atlantia running properly. Not only to keep it running properly, but to protect it as well.
Right.
Now,
Okay. So,
the Peronia sat down on top of Antarctica because the Peronia was housed the entire they housed the entire array of power generators. They were the ones that were specialized in thermal, magnetic, solar, and hydropower. Okay, as in geothermal, not to mention solar.
Mhm.
So, because Antarctica had an opening, okay, they sat down right near it because it gave them the freest access to the power system necessary to uplink to the Atlantia and keep it protected and running.
Okay, that
Now,
makes
the
sense.
Peronia
That makes sense.
were referred to as Peronian, but they're still part of the same empire.
Okay. Okay. So they came from a different ship.
Yes.
That and that's the one that put down in what we know as Antarctica.
Correct.
All right. Because it made sense because they were the energy ship and there was a huge amount of geothermal there because volcanoes, so they could use it to establish a network. That sounds
Yeah.
very logical
Ultimately, that's
to
what it
me.
boils down to. We need the power lines.
Okay.
So here we are. Well, there's a new one.
Right.
I'm just looking
What's
in
the
the
new
chat
one?
room. I'm just looking at the last name of this lady that just came into the chat room.
Renee.
Look at her
Hello,
last name.
Renee. Yep. Well, hello, Renee. Andrews. I see. Renee Andrews. Okay. Well, Andrews is not so uncommon.
Yeah,
It's
I don't
okay.
know. I know I'm
It's okay.
looking for other relatives, but I don't know who they are.
But I can say she's definitely quantum because she ended up here. Welcome aboard, Aunt
That you
Renee.
absolutely can.
So, yeah. All right. And Joseph is making a comment. It is amazing how many superior races don't plan for the degrees of space, the dangers of space. Why were the Atlanteans and their other ships ready for solar flares from a red dwarf star? Or why weren't they ready?
Well, amazingly, politely put, the fact that they are advanced races above humans does not mean that they're the top of the line.
Hmm.
And the thing is, you
Well,
can only compensate for so much in the way of corporeally created artificial items as compared to what nature can pull.
okay. I can see that. You can only prepare so much. You can only take so many precautions before something random happens to undermine all of it. That's everyone. That is all of us.
See,
We take all the
understand.
precautions like mhm,
Yeah, understand the OTE drive, which is what they used after the fact, wasn't even built before the accident. Had it been
mhm.
built, the power transfer system would have been phenomenal.
Okay, now we need to just clarify OTE drive
Also,
for
the densification of the
for the audience.
tri-transcendental equilarity.
I actually made a thing for that a long time ago. No, I made a comment on your show. Oh, nope, nope. Here it is. Here it is. Yep, I knew I had saved it. Right? Right?
That is correct.
Awesome. We have notes here on the Quantum Show. So that is what he's talking about. It wasn't put together at the moment.
It wasn't.
So,
It was an experimental thing.
mhm. Okay. So they did eventually make this OTE drive, right? And
Yes,
but they didn't have it at the moment. Going back to the comments.
they didn't have the conversion principles
So,
worked out.
mm,
See, the thing
okay,
they
and
hadn't built,
another. Mhm.
the thing
The
they
thing they
hadn't that
hadn't
they
built.
hadn't developed was the fractal inverter necessary to slow the system down, which would have taken that radiation and converted it quite nicely. Unfortunately, it didn't quite
Sounds
work.
like a regulator. Yeah, sounds like a
I'll work
regulation
on it.
system.
Yes. Regulation system, braking
Okay,
system combined.
Bronklander is saying seismological charts showing these energy bursts from Antarctica were off the charts. Now these talk about current things happening in Antarctica, and yeah, they are. He's just making a comment about locally lately. So okay, is there anything down there that we should be looking for now that would be left over that
underneath
you
Antarctica?
may be aware of? Yeah.
In my opinion, you really should leave it alone. Mankind's maturity level is
Oh,
not up to what's possible.
okay. Are there still those people down there? If Are you aware if they're still down there?
Most of them have moved into what you would call inner Earth,
Okay.
but
All right.
the
Mhm.
Peronia is actually protected.
Okay. They're protected. Like they're protecting themselves? Is
No,
that what
much
you
more
mean?
importantly, the ship itself, that whole the underside of that whole city has been
Mhm.
not quarantined, but it has been protected from the surface.
Okay. So it is. All right. We'll leave that there because you said don't go there. We won't go there. There is
Oh, I
something
didn't
there.
say
It's
no.
not for us.
It's not something humans.
Hmm?
I mean, I like the way it was put in Jurassic Park. Human scientists are so interested in what they can do, they seldom look at what they should do.
Right. That's a good quote. Okay. And all right, let's take it back to the past because I did this is getting too close to the research part of stuff and I want to run you off again. So let's take it back to the past. Your personal memories. So you were working there with the Peronians, correct?
Yeah,
Okay. And you were working
I was
at
I
it
was
was
based in
energy
Atlantis, but I
generation.
did go there.
Right. Okay, you're based in Atlantis?
I was based in Atlantis, but I
Okay.
did have
But you did
interactions with the Brownians.
okay. And your work took you there,
Yes,
is what you're saying. Okay, work
yes.
took you there. And you were
Yeah.
doing power generation, power regulation for the cities. Okay.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
was
right?
what I was working with was the converting the propulsion engines to a generator system for simply running everything else.
Okay.
Because the
And they
priority
were using
one,
go ahead.
the Bronians were literally their priority was get as much stable energy running, okay, from any source they could get it to power the system, to hold the entire system together.
Okay. And it seems like it worked for a good long time, but then it didn't work after a time. There was a bunch of stuff go down. But we're not there yet. That we might touch on that, but I want to talk about daily happenings. So, okay, yeah. So, daily happenings. Tell me, Keith, day in the life, what did you do? You have mentioned
In
in the
my
past
case,
that the more you talk about this, go ahead.
oh yeah, no, in my case, I'd come down, we go over the schematics and what have you, because what I was doing, and I do not hold the memories today to be able to work on your guys'
Hmm.
equipment. Okay. But what I was
Okay.
doing is at the time, well, I hold them, I just don't know where they are. Um, but my job was go down, talk to the developers that were working on the couplings because the couplings had to work on our end to be able to transfer the power into the Atlantia and at the same time set it up to go out to the other sites. Okay. The Peronians had to build the couplings on their end. So what you got is energy that had to it had to be converted so that the Peronia could handle it first. Then they had to build the
Hmm.
couplings to flip the energy around. Okay. And change the concentration, if you will, to be able to be filtered into the Atlantia. Because you can pump it out a lot faster. Picture, if you will, taking energy from a fire hose and building a converter to slow the water and slow the energy down to go through a water and through a garden hose.
A baffle.
Okay.
Or okay, now you're talking about fluid system, a water hose, fire hose to garden hose. That would be a baffle or a limiter.
Yeah. Well, understand
Okay,
water and energy work exactly the same way.
understood.
So
Electricity
a
is
baffle is
often
a
described
system
as
is a
goes
term
through
that will
pipes.
work. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, yeah, and so you were power conversion specialist, right?
Yeah.
Power conversion, power regulation.
In a nutshell, I was a rocket scientist.
What
I
color
knew
was your
the
hard hat?
engine.
No, I'm just joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Mine was tinfoil.
Tinfoil. Okay.
Sorry, what is
I
this?
didn't mean to interrupt. What were you gonna say?
I said I was literally a rocket scientist. I was the one I was one of the people that handled keeping everything firing in sequence to get the ship off the ground, which meant I
Okay.
already
The
knew how
ship.
the Atlantia worked properly.
Yes.
The
And
people on the Peronia were specialists in energy conversion. Combined, remember I talked to you a while back about having the configuration in my head of an energy
yes.
converter that combined the whole 9 yards. That comes off the Peronia.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
They knew how that
Right.
worked.
Yeah, you mentioned.
I knew how the energy pattern worked
Okay.
on the Atlantia.
All right. So you were okay. I get you now. You were an Atlantia worker, manager, owner, well, and you were helping to adapt the Peronian ship back and forth.
Exactly. Helping to
Okay.
adapt because they built the Peronians when they first sat down. The first thing they did was start to access the energy levels from the Earth itself. Okay.
Okay. And there has got to be, and now and there, we're getting into the technical stuff. And here is Joe's question. Weren't most of their systems based on crystal tech?
Yes.
Okay. So crystals, as we all know, are harmonic acting devices, right,
Yes.
Keith? Now, they will resonate with each other and they tune to each other. And the difference now, as far as I know, this might be one of those moments, Keith. As far as I know, the differences in those is where you can pass along information and instructions. The differences in
Bingo.
resonance between I gotta write that down, y'all. That was that was a quantum moment.
We are going to
Proclamation
throw a wrench
yourselves.
into what you're trying to find. You're going to love what I'm going
Oh,
to
I'm
tell
not
you to
finding
do.
it. I, I gotta write this down. I'm writing it on paper.
That's okay. If it ain't consolation there, Nathan, I do the same thing. I just use bigger paper.
Man. So I just wrote down crystals are resonant, and the difference in the resonances are what carry instructions and information. And it's like not it's like like what we use with how we use an interference pattern.
I will
Okay,
take your word for that.
real quick tech. I will I will go ahead and for the audience, right? When I say interference pattern, a lot of times You know those clocks that have the hovering red above it that shows the time? You have
Yeah.
2 different frequencies of light. This is just for the audience, Keith. You have 2 different frequencies of light. They're striking each other. You can't see one, you can't see the other, but you can see where they touch. And that's how they form the light. That's how you see that,
Now we're on the
right?
right path.
Okay. Now, these crystals are resonant to an extreme uh within like they're 80% resonant with each other, but the 20% is where the interference happens. Oh wow. The 20% is where it's not resonant. So you can manipulate that for your ups and downs, peaks and valleys, whatever you call it, right? Well, this is the technical stuff, Keith. This is Joe.
Right.
This is for you.
Oddly enough, this is the stuff that makes sense. I don't have the terminology, but I have the understanding of it. And there's 2 major
Okay, well,
components that humans haven't got yet. When you look at naturally forming crystals on Earth, they are 6-sided. Okay, when you look at double
yes.
terminates, they are 6-sided. The crystals the Atlanteans
Yep.
used were grown with 7 sides.
Yes.
I don't think I've seen a 7-sided naturally growing one here. But then that's because they were
I
growing
don't
on
think
another ship.
yes. Um, I'd like to know why they form with 6 sides versus any other side. What natural process in the environment causes 6 sides and not more or less?
I'm
I
sorry,
would like to look that up.
this is one that you're going to have to look into. Yeah.
I will look it up. I mean, it's just interesting to me because um, what you've said in the past is they can be cut to shape and be just as viable, right?
I did so.
Okay.
What I didn't say is that we've got the technology to do it right.
Okay. Right. Joe, that is not what I said. I didn't say the total frequencies are different. Of course, if you're talking on 80 megahertz, you're not going to hear anything on 60 megahertz. But if you're on a band of 80 to 55, and this is on a band of 20 to 65, there's going to be an overlay in there, right? So if you're on a frequency that they step on each other, then this becomes a usable medium just as well, I believe, right? So there. All right. And well, and we're talking about the crystals, the 6-sided, 7-sided, we're talking about quartz, correct?
Quartz works, let's put it that way.
Okay, quartz, right. Okay. And Brunklander is saying in there, and he says no, or Joseph, sorry, it's been a long week, y'all. Joseph said, not all are 6-sided. Different minerals have different sides. Okay, well, we're talking about quartz. And then Brunklander says, Nathan, the answer to 6-sided crystals may be toroidal energy. I'm not sure about that. Need to I need to look into that. But toroidal energy is I don't know if that's a crystal thing. I know it's a thing. I don't know. That interesting that you bring that up. Okay. So it's been an hour, Keith. Does it feel like it?
Okay.
It feels like 20 minutes.
I was going to
Does it
say,
feel
I
like
was
an
not
hour has
expecting
gone
it to be
by?
that quick. No,
I know, because like
but then I'm
I got a
temporarily
timer on the
challenged
screen
anyway.
up here. Same. I mean, me too. We all are. We're all when we go quantum, time is meaningless, irrelevant. Woo! Okay, everybody. Well, I will go ahead and wrap this up and say it's break time. Okay, and you read, oh, Joe, you read the interference patterns. You can use that as a medium. I know you can. I know you can. It's been done. So anyway, yeah, coffee time. And ah, everybody, this has been the first hour of the Quantum Show with R. Keita Andrews. Links are all in the description. We are going to take a break, and the panel will resume in 20-30 minutes, depending on everything, depending on how things work out. If the coffee's done and the creamer's cold. Okay, everybody, thank you all for being here. Keith, thank you. If you can't make the panel, I understand it's later for you than it is for me. So, what
Can't be
time you
that
got,
much
Keith?
later. Right now, I got 8 o'clock.
I got 10 o'clock. So it's later for me. Anyway,
Yeah.
food break. Yeah, Kate said it. So thanks everybody for coming in the chat. I am going to wrap up. Man, I really need some coffee. Let me tell you, I feel drained. Thanks everybody. Talk to you in a little bit. Keep it quantum.